Hello and welcome to this Beyond Exploring session, and today we are looking at Occupation and Idleness, one of the Winchester dialogues from the late-ish 15th century. It is a dialogue between three protagonists. It is not 100% certain whether this was actually designed to be performed or whether it is simply a dialogue to be read. There's plenty of other texts where people use a dialogue form to get across an argument going back much earlier than this. But we always like on this I was going to say podcast. We're not really a podcast. We're sort of videos. On the podcast, we like to always think that if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. And that's the question for today. Is this a performable text? Is this what it is, or is this something that we look at and note and move on for future consideration? To answer that question tonight, I have a team of excited readers who we're going to introduce now one at a time in no particular order whatsoever, because we're swapping around readers. We only have 3 parts to read, but we have a glut of people tonight. So, reading, at least initially, Idleness will be...
Hello, my name is Sascha Cooper, and I'm a professional actress, performer, and voiceover artist, and all-round performer based in Brighton in the UK.
And reading Occupation, certainly initially, is...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, and general Renaissance and medieval text bard, wearer of round glasses in London.
And readings for the first half, Doctrine is...
I am Greg, and I'm from Stratford-on-Avon.
And later down the line, reading Doctrine will be...
Oh, hi, I'm Ruth Evans. I'm a specialist in later medieval English literature, and I do other medieval literatures as well. And I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, in the Midwest of the US.
And new to the group tonight, reading one of the other parts to be discovered further along the lines is...
Hi, my name's Iain. I'm a learning participant coordinator in a local theatre in Manchester, UK.
Excellent, and that is the team for tonight. I am your host, Robert Crighton. I am ideally not going to be reading anything because I'm going to spend most of the time comparing our rough modern adaptation as we've started tidying up bits of the text for modern readers, and I'm going to be pursuing that and checking that as we go along. But otherwise, I'll be leading the debate about what this is and how it goes. So the text opens, as we have it, with occupation, and it does feel very much like the beginning of a play, with occupation speaking perhaps to the audience. I don't know. Let's find out. Occupation, it's over to you.
The mighty maker that made all thing, he meddle his mercy ever in our mend. Our bales he abate, and to bliss us bring, as he was our founder, and we come of his kind. For all the wealth of the world is turned to wrangling, and friendship is now full faint for to find. Again, equity and right the people be jangling, and full few there be that hereof have mind. The cause is this, for now reigneth treason, there that should be reason, but ye beware in season, ye labor all amiss. For we may see a great example every day of hunger and death before our eye. From the pricking of pestilence escape we nay may, from winds and weathers that cometh from the sky. Therefore, let right reign and forsake simony. Rule you by reason and labor for your meat. In true occupation, sell thou and buy. Deceive no man with subtlety in cold, nay in heat, but sow reason and truth. Let ease and favor from thee flee, and take counsel and equity. Else lose ye heaven so free. And meseemeth that were Ruth, and eke great shame. Now, if there be any here that my name would aspear, I tell ye, sovereigns all in fear, occupation, that is my name. I busy full basely in cold and in heat, winds nay weathers we may not spare, With great grievance I go my living to get. Oft weary and wet-shod I suffer muchel care, to session or to sizes if that I fare, because I have a little gathered to heap. In such plea no skill I can, thus am I in care. There I stand and study as mad as any sheep. For woe, for I had liefer been at plough, to God I make a vow, thresh in a barn, reap and mow. Therefore I height occupation wheresoever I go, on ground. Here I think to abide, to rest me a little tide, in peace, both safe and sound.
Ah, rest you merry, I make a vow. Why say ye not welcome now? Be God, there be many of you that I know well and fine. This worthy man, though I it say, he hath known me many a day. For he and I spent in fay are both is thrusted wine. Ah, sir, give God you tomorrow. Lo, sir, this good man will be my borrow, had I had need. Nay, good sir, laugh me not to scorn. I trow ye have your knowledge forlorn, for my simple weed. Yea, this weed will serve me well and fine. Oft thou hast be wet sith thou were mine, both at the ale and at the wine in the High Street, while I have aught I will spend. When I have none, God will send. Thus every company I will amend, and gather fellowship to help. For I have good meat and drink, when I am full I will swink. Now by my troth, as I think, I am a sly clerk. Therefore I tell you express, my name is called Idleness. I keep not to arise to matins ne mass, nay to none other work. For to no labour I cast me, but ever to sloth I fast me. And if ye will attest me, ye shall find me quaint. Quaintly go I, lo, as pretty as a pie, lo. What say ye thereto? Who could make me a taint? Behold now this gracious face, how gallantly I take my trace. There is now none such in this place, should I not do thus. Lo, how jolly get I, and none fellowship let I, and but few met I, but they with me truce and gone. Hey, what is that yonder gadling that standeth yonder all stradling? I will write for all his babbling what he is anon. All hail, good man, and well found.
Oh,
I'm just going to pause there. That was nicely done, people. Two characters have introduced themselves to the audience. Who are they? What clues have we got? There's an interesting question about who's laughing when they talk, nay, good sir, laugh me not to scorn. Is that Occupation laughing at idleness? There was that moment there, or is that an expectation from the audience? Or thoughts?
I absolutely think idleness is singling out different people in the audience here and saying, you know, I know you, I know you, I know you, ooh, I know you.
Definitely an interactive piece, this one.
Yeah, we're getting clues very, very early on that this is designed to be performed, not necessarily read. It doesn't. That speech makes no sense out of context otherwise.
I think when idleness refers to the clothing that he's wearing, that's another indication of it being performed. You know, for my simple weed, yet this weed will serve me well and fine. You know, and is pointing to the clothing that he's wearing. I think it's performed.
Yeah, I think we've answered that question very, very quickly. So that's that one down. We can affirm that it is indeed a duck. So, not that kind of duck. It walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck.
Absolutely.
So, who? Well, what's the difference? Major differences between occupation and idleness in terms of how they address the audience, how they're dressed. You know, what clues have we got there?
Well, idleness certainly doesn't see, it's not a straightforward opposition between, you know, the busy bee figure that's always hard at work, carrying out Christian good works, and idleness who's just like a, you know, vice figure. Because idleness is picking out people in the audience and is trying to get them on side. So the audience is, you know, the audience is being enlisted there on idleness's side.
Mm.
I think Occupation must be dressed as a farm laborer, because he talks about reaping, mowing, he talks about sheep,
Right.
and he flags up that he's no good at court cases. He doesn't have any clerkly skills. So he loves farm work and he doesn't like going to court.
Mm. Whereas idleness explicitly says, I am a sly clerk, you know, I have an education. I like sitting around in Zoom meetings. I don't want to go outside.
No, he's basically this flamboyant, lazy character, or she, if however you care to cast
gendered,
it.
however.
Yeah.
You know,
I think there's no reason why we don't play around with that. I don't think we've got any clues yet as to pronouns, do we?
Not
for sure.
as yet.
Idleness.
Sorry, Ian.
I think there's an indication that Occupation's a gentleman just because of the I will wipe for all his babbling. What is he and on? I'm assuming. Oh no, actually, if that's addressing the audience, it could be.
No, I think it is Occupation that he's talking about.
Yeah.
The one at the very end, yeah. I think by that point he is. That yonder gaddling, straddling, babbling bit, which suggests that he's vaguely been listening to some of that, perhaps. But then there's always a bit of a suggestion of that, even if they're not on stage.
Now, I wanted to flag up one more thing before we carry on, and this is really a question for Ruth. That first stanza is the Gowan stanza, right?
I was thinking about that. Is that a bob and wheel, which is the Gowan and the Green Knight, which are stanzas of varying length. It always ends with a 5-line bob and wheel. But that doesn't continue in the other stanzas here, does it? Or not in the same way that it does in the first one. It is a Gowan stanza, except Gowan doesn't rhyme. The main stanzas of Gowan don't rhyme. The main part of the stanza, it's only the bob and wheel, the last 5 lines that rhymes.
You're right, the main bit alliterates. But does that stanza recur often outside of Gowan in the corpus we have?
No, not really, no. But you do get bob and wheel in other texts, you know, in a lot of Middle English drama.
Yeah.
It's true, actually. You're right. The Second Shepherds has it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's also, there's an awful lot of things that are flashing memories. You know, just turns of phrase that you find elsewhere that just keep turning up. So there's a lot of connection there. It's interesting talking about this. Behold now this gracious face. That suddenly flashes to Lucifer a tad, and sovereigns all in fear. These standard turns of phrase that you get popping up in.
There's a lot of formulaic phrases, but it's but there's enough variation and liveliness to stop you thinking that it's just form.
Oh yeah, no, it's not getting in the way or anything at all.
No.
Okay, let's get into some dialogue as opposed to monologue. So, Occupation and Idleness, continue, please. Let's go from the end of Idleness. So, all hail, good man. Let's go from there.
Oh, hail, good man, and well found.
Welcome, young man, on this ground.
Why, sire, tell me this stound. Know ye not me?
Of thee, son, what is thy name?
Lo, now ariseth game. I am like to take blame, but I the better where be. I must change my name, whiz, and tell him busyness my name is. Yea, for God, thus it is. This is a pretty while. And when I am with him at fess, I will take mine own ease. To sleep enough he shall not cheese. I think to him beguile.
Just going to pause there, 'cause that's clearly an aside, isn't it? That whole sequence.
It is.
It is, isn't it? So that's
Very
one
much
hell of
an
an
aside.
aside there. Okay, and now you're talking back to occupation again.
That's right.
Hmm.
Where am I? Oh, yes. Sir, I wonder ye have forgot me, Ewis, and I have served you ere this. For busyness my name is. Sir, know ye that name?
Busyness, yea, in good faith, he hath served me many a day.
Now in good faith leave me ye may, I am the same.
Art thou busyness? I trow nay. Meseemeth by thy simple array.
Sir, should I wear my best every day? I have 10 or 12 of good gowns in my press, and furs of great richess. Of this man I take witness, ye may ask him yourself.
Then, what labour can ye best now?
Thresh in your barn, or go to plough, ripe, mow, and eke sow, and other husbandry. Go to market, buy and sell, and keep a household I can well. With sheep and swine I can mell. Where to should I lie?
Wilt thou be with me all this year, and thou shalt be my partner?
Yea, be truth with good cheer, but I have no money in store.
Give me thy truth in this stound, and have here £10. And thou govern it well on this ground, and thou had need, come fetch more.
Oh, yes, heartily, sir, have ye no doubt. Now have I need to look about, both within and without, that nothing be amiss. I have here in this purse £10 of gold. It is no worse. To the cooks will I me truce anon, so have I bliss. It. Good sir, tell me insane, what shall I clape your name?
Sir, I say by Saint James, my name is Occupation.
Ah, Occupation, be my fay, is a good name and a worthy to be commended honestly in field and eke in town. But sir, go ye home or over the sea, your household and your main, and then in haste come hider and see. Tarry not too long.
Farewell then in God's name.
Now in faith he were to blame that would do thee any wrong. Walk on. God let thee never the foul artful mad to trust thee. But this gold shalt thou never see, so God me amend. For in Broad Street, Sanfail, it shall be spent in good the tale of wine and ale I will not fail. Thither now I am bent. For and I would beset this gold here on sheep or lamb, they be dear, and also a bad gear soon would hem stroy. If I beset it in cow or veal, paraventure some thief might hem steal. Nay, nay, therewith will I not deal, such merchandise I defy. If I would build any house then, might come some fire and it brenn, that maketh many a way to ren, and take the town's end. Nay, nay, I will not so in fay, but to the tavern I will go my way. And to the cooks, permafay, thither will I wend. But, and occupation come by the way, ask me, sir, I thee pray. For we two have loved many a day, these years 4 or 5, till this be spent every dell, full happy, full hell. I will no longer with him mell, I go hence well blithe.
The Roy Reverent that on the road was rent, he save you, my sovereign, seemly in sea, that was blindfold and buffeted and his blood spent, from the threatening of thraldom to make us all free, and the brenning blossom that bright is of blee, with her features so fortunate, void us of our foe. Excellent empress of high dignity, conclude here conclusions, as ye well can, through your son's might. For truly will I every day, whithersoever I take my way, in holy church, if that I may, of thy son have a sight. Then to my labour will I go, till and travail in much woe, my livelihood to get. We may not spare wind nor rain, but go to plough in croft and plain, and oft we labour again main in dry and in wet. And I pray you, Tell me, an you can, saw any of you busyness, my man, sin I was last here? For he is so long out with my gold walked about, by my truth, I am in doubt he is in some danger. I note what is best, till I of some tidings of him hear. Here I think to rest.
I'm just going to pause there because there's obviously wasn't immediately clear, but is very clear now that there's exiting and there's time gaps going on in those speeches. So when Occupation says farewell then in God's name, definitely that's an exit. And Idleness is left to have the floor, presumably again disappearing, while Occupation comes back on and does their prayer before Labour and worrying about poor business. Where's busyness gone? Lots. Oh, I slightly. I didn't zone out. I went off on a tangent because I was getting such a powerful sense of déjà vu through a lot of that, and I was trying to figure out from what. I think lots of things is the answer. There was so much there that was ringing bells elsewhere. So this little con that's going on with Idleness and Occupation here, it's very dynamic. There's it's not very long, but there's a lot going on here. There are thoughts from the room, please, because I'm babbling.
Just to reinforce the thing about what now seems obvious is that this must have been acted because, well, there's two things. I mean, one is the asides, that Idleness is making that suggest taking the audience into, his or her confidence. And then the thing that, and I pray you tell me, and you can say, saw you any business, my man, is again enlisting the audience in playing the game, so it's...
Yeah, it's a very dynamic text. So what is the goal? How did he Occupation? How did Idleness extract the money? What was the argument there? What was going on?
Oh, he asked him to go into business with him, and he just said, "Oh, I would, but I have no money." So he was actually offered the money just from that little white lie. Just to get a bit of quick cash behind him.
Occupation also refers to him later as busyness, my man. So I think it seems like a hiring fair, and it seems as though, yes, he offers busyness to be his partner and stay with him for a year, and then he gives him the wage up front, which might not be the smartest idea.
And then Idleness gets this rather fun speech about what the fun that can be had with all this wonderful money.
He's basically having a nice chat about food and drink.
Yeah. These are all threads we're going to see repeatedly over the next 100 years. This is fascinating. It really is fascinating. Sorry, I'm genuinely a bit stumped here by all the possibilities that come out of this. This is fascinating. Okay, let's see where this develops. Unless other people in the room have thoughts, because
I just wondered if when Idleness has managed to extract this £10 of gold from Occupation. And when he says, I have, or she says, I have here in this purse £10 of gold, whether that's an aside to the audience as well, to
it is an aside.
I think it probably is.
That's definitely an aside. Yeah.
So lots of play, you agree? I mean, there's lots of play acting here, which is fun.
Yeah, no, it's really fun and really dynamic. Okay, the two are thrown back together again at some speed. So you get that impression of some time has passed. I don't know how much time, but enough time to have spent the money, presumably. And so, which suggests, to say, an exit from idleness rather than just hanging back. So,
there's also a pun as well. I realise this because you get this in the Pardoner's Tale. Busyness doesn't just mean the action of being busy; it also means business.
Yeah, yeah.
And business, my man, is, you know, there's the pun.
Yeah. And yeah. I'll come back to my thoughts later because they're all jumbled. Where did we get to line wise? Did we get to
top of idleness, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Godspeed, I am come.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let's see what you're up to.
Aha! Godspeed, I am come. I have right well wet my throat. Aware, a little stone around, for I am very cup shot. Ah, my brain ginneth to rout and turneth as round as any ball. By my troth, I am in great doubt. Meseemeth the sky will on me fall. I am ill, aghast. I come from the cook's now, and to God I make a vow. There have I well broke my fast. I have eat and drunk of the best, till methought the dry way slither, and my master's gold so have I rest. It is spent altogether on good meat and drink. For be God and Our Lady both, I bought therewith neither clout ni cloth. For be my partner never so wroth, a while will I go wink.
Abide, a word with you.
Ah, welcome. I make a vow. I have sought you widen now these 2 days all three.
Soughtest thou me? I pray thee where?
God, on foot, there you were.
Such a messenger, evil he fare, so to seek me. Meseemeth thou cometh late from the nail.
Ah, be God, that is a true tale. There have I welfare.
Now by God I stand in doubt that thou hast spent my money out. Then am I in great care.
Sir, that money is a go. That there they had be such too. Therefore mine heart is sore.
Ah, sire, sir, foul mote thee befall, that ever I met thee in this hall. My gold thou hast lore. What thou saidest, busyness thy name hight.
So I did, be this light, and yet I did lie. But now I tell thee in game, idleness is my name.
I swear by Saint James thou art a wily pie. Son, and thou wilt to me hark, I will teach thee some other work.
What, wouldst thou make me a clerk? That I will not begin, for I will go play me and royally array me.
Hark, son, thou say me, wilt thou worship win?
Worship? How should I come thereto?
With manner and manhood, son, lo, and be never thine own foe. To my words thou hark.
Who teacheth that manner, I pray thee?
Truly, son, as I say thee, doctrine, that worthy clerk.
Doctrine? What man is he?
A master of divinity, of the university, to teach thee to wax wise.
Ah, wilt thou so? Nay, I will not with thee go. I have espied thee too wise.
Son, leave thy fantasy and turn to grace, I say thee.
I knell, I make to God a vow. I will eat as good as thou. Go set to grass thy horse or thy cow, or else, sir, go play thee.
And who shall find thee meat and drink all day?
Be my fay, Jonnet and Gill.
What wilt thou do, can thou me say, when Janet and Jill is away?
Then be it as it may, therefore care I knell. I shew him that therefore cares. Some for labour waxeth wooed, and they have not an hold. I know none that better fares.
And at which point we have stage direction of Enter Doctrine. Idleness, I think you're absolutely right, is 3 sheets to the wind a bit, isn't it?
Just a tad.
Just a little.
He's absolutely right.
And it's lovely to see Janet and Jill. That's got a slightly different resonance today.
There's an indication here that idleness enters through the crowd somehow to say, oh,
Yeah.
beware, a little stand of room, for I'm very cup shot.
Yes, it's get out the way. I'm not stable on my feet. I'm going to fall over you. Yeah, again, and we get this in interludes going forward for 100 odd plus years of a very crowded space, and the moment anyone's got to make an entrance, they've got to get through the legs of whoever's in front, and of course where that entrance is depends on the nature of the scene. Here you can imagine Idleness is deliberately going the most awkward route through the audience for comic effect, and doing it very, very well. Right, as we've got the introduction of Doctrine, I'm just wondering whether we should just switch things up a little bit and swap a voice round if anyone doesn't mind too much. Either Sascha or Liza, are you?
Don't mind.
You're happy, Sascha? So, Iain, if you'd like to read Idleness for a little bit,
Sure.
as we have the introduction of Doctrine, and just break it up a little bit and see what different voices do. To be fair, this is probably mostly Doctrine's moment in the spotlight, but we have a third character on stage. How exciting!
Does anyone want to read Occupation as well?
Well, there's only me left. I suppose we could all swap around, couldn't we?
I mean, I'm happy to stay, but I'm happy to. It's up to you.
I mean, if Ruth would like to step in early, would you like to be Occupation?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, let's do it that way. So it's a complete change of
Liza.
personnel. That's quite nice. Good thinking. Okay, entry of new Doctrine. We've got a new Idleness. We've got a new Occupation. So lovely. Go Doctrine.
What, sirs, what play is this that ye make in this place? I am come to mend all my's by the help of God's grace.
Ah, that man hath an angry face.
Peace then, fool, and stand aside.
I pray God give thee evil grace. Beginnest thou now for to chide?
Sir, welcome mote ye be, and of your name are you pray?
Doctrine, men clepen me, to teach cunning I am fain.
Doctrine, sir, ye be welcome. I have busied me full sad for to study and stir wisdom. Now of your company I am full glad.
What is your name, gentle brother?
Truly, my name is Occupation.
Welcome be ye above all other, with you to have communication. For all that's a good occupation long, God is pleased, and so am I. But occupation that toucheth to wrong doth men no good, but villainy. For an thou wilt thee occupy in bodily works or alms deed, in penance or prayers wilfully, I Doctrine to thee will take heed. For Doctrine teacheth openly and clear virtuous life among us to set.
Hark, sirs, ye shall hear, for now two shrews been met. Be my truth, I will me hide, like a mouse in yonder guard, for of him that gapeth wide, in faith I am evil afeard, I will be go.
By my faith thou shalt abide, and ere thou pass from me this tide, I will thee teach a word or two.
Whom? Me, sir? I know the not, no never, I keep by heaven king.
Son, I will teach thee somewhat for to get thy living.
Sir, in the name of Heaven King, give him some information how he may get his living in the way of his salutation. That is all my desire.
Truly, brother Occupation, that I will do without any hire, for every good man is bound to occupy him in cleanness. And he in good occupation be found, the fiend tempteth him much the less. Every man have enemies three, the devil, the world, and his own flesh, which they been I will tell thee. And how then they embattle him fresh, in pride and wrath the fiend tempteth man, and in envy that is so bad. These three sins in heaven began soon after Lucifer was made. The word tempteth man to sloth and covetize, that Adam and Eve first upbrought, when they would be as wise as was our Lord that them wrought. The flesh of gluttony failed next. Lechery was in Sodom and Gomorrah and other moe. For these wait well in our thought, for much harm there hath be do. For and thou in thee in temptation fell, occupy thee in cleanness, for the fiend on no man may stell, save in though that he find in idleness. In him will he hide, for all the vices that there be. Idleness is the worst, I tell thee.
Out! Whither may I flee? This angry man will beat me, and I lied.
Of idleness cometh this, feats and strumpets, so have I rest. Again this default I wish, occupation I hold the best. But the most default nowadays on the people that I find, men teach their children wanton plays, and not as they should in kind. Some shall beshrew father and mother, and be for wanton, as ye may see. Such points and many other maketh many children never to thee. Set your children into school, ye that been good men of fame, maintain them not to play the fool, but let them learn some good for shame. For he that have neither land nor rent, coin the cattle him to find of large expense, but be repent, soon shall be begged to be kind, that were reprieve. For why in thy good be law, and wilt not labour for him no more, but in idleness set him sore, then must be wex of feet. I lie not express. Beware, draw you to good, and labour for your life's food, and pray to him that died on rood, and beware of idleness.
Idleness not far, thinketh me, and so I told one right now.
Idleness, where is he?
Yonder, sir, as you may see, and scorneth both me and you.
Idleness, come near, and learn of me some courtesy.
I shrew me, and I come there while thou art so angry.
Thou shalt come hither, more grind thine head, and learn some good in thy youth. Thou would be like to beg thy bread, but thou draw thee from sloth. I say, boy, arise.
I pray thee, sir, go thy way, me list not with thee to play.
I will thee teach in good faith, now for to vex wise. Therefore, boy, I say stand still, and some virtue that thou lear.
Go forth and do me none ill. I would ye were in that ditch both in fair.
I say, boy, scorn thou me now.
He doth as evil as he can.
He lieth. I make God a vow, in record of this worthy man. Sir saw me mock him to scorn. Nay, he lieth in his face.
Son, to what living wert thou born?
I think you've jumped there.
No, sorry, I have. No, it's me.
However, it's a good point to pause, because there was something that was coming up. Getting the impression that idleness is, they're calling him boy. I think that's possibly quite explicitly, he is a young, explicitly younger. And that sort of works and makes sense of this relationship of someone who's needs to be taught the correct ways. That I do love Idleness's responses here. The moment that Doctrine came in, that man hath an angry face.
Yeah. Any of us who have had students are going to recognize that.
Yeah. He's been beaten before.
Ruth?
Oh,
Well, I think boy can also mean servant at this time, can't it? So
It can, yeah.
But a clerk would be young. I mean, Idleness has described himself as a clerk, and that would be, that could be someone very young.
Yeah.
Maybe it was written for a school and they're all boys.
It started to feel that way, I have to say.
There's a certain morality tale that's sort of creeping in.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Creeping in, you mean Doctrine's whacking great speeches?
I've found following everybody else's speeches quite easy, but Doctrines to me are almost unassailable mass.
They're
They're very hard to read or understand.
I mean, they're a series of, you know, they're just a series of rules, isn't it? Set your children unto school. You know, don't let them play the fool. You know, it's going through all the things, isn't it?
Reminds me of the Book of Proverbs in some ways.
Well,
That
we've had explicit
constant-
proverb work in other texts that we've touched on.
kind of reminds me a lot of Piers Plowman, a kind of animated Piers Plowman, where you've got all these allegorical personifications coming to life and telling people what to do. And
I was thinking about Hawkin Activa Vita.
oh yes, yeah,
And his foul habit.
that's right. Yes.
It's interesting because we talk about morality plays. Iain brought up morality plays, and we think of those as the sort of the obvious morality plays that we think of, and sort of separate them a bit from some of the later interludes that we've got. But this seems to be doing both, and already, you know, much earlier than some of the other plays we've been doing, and I find that really interesting. It's doing games with the same games that texts are doing 100 years in the future, and with very little difference, actually, apart from language shift and you know, general verse style. The actual games that are happening on stage, the dramaturgy here is not different. Fewer characters, but it's just so familiar. Any additional thoughts before we plough a little further forward? Okay, we got to...
I trow boy thy thrift be lawn, is it?
Yeah, you're not impressed with this boy, are you?
No, not at all. Oh dear. I trow boy thy thrift be lawn, to goodness thou hast no grace.
Sir, ever to sloth and idleness he draweth him morrow and eve, and I bid him oft express all that folly for to leave.
Son, to what living were thou born?
With milk and flour I began, I ween.
What? This boy driveth me to scorn.
Nay, God forbid, let that bane.
Have set hand on this book, and to thy law that thou lout.
Ah, see, sir, how I look. Ne'er hand I can it throw out. Ah, see here sit up high.
But thou the better to thy book lout, be my fay thou shalt abide.
In good fay, ye say well, every man to labour in his cunning. This matter I trow well, I feel, else can we have but hard living. And idleness in household wend, me seemeth it much the worse.
Ye be ever my back friend, therefore have ye God's curse.
Son, have this book in thy hand, and learn in the name of God, as I do thee to understand. Thou shalt be chastised with a rod, both even and morrow.
Ah, sir, he that thee hither brought, I pray God give him sorrow.
Theon, cross Christ me speed, and in thy mind that it keep.
By my troth, I stand in dread, how I shall bring it to hep. First let me rest a little while. My eyes be as Ed.
Sir, this boy will you beguile. In the name of God take heed, and learn him some law.
Ah, sir, the devil be thy speed, thou art again me evermore.
Son, learn thou never thy believe, thy paternoster, ave, and creed.
Nay, sir, so mote I chieve, thereto took I never heed, I not what it is.
Now by sweet Saint James, thy father is the more to blame, and thy friends all insane, that should have taught thee this.
Meseemeth it were an almsdeed to make him leave this lewd route.
I will not do be thy rede. Old fool, thou beginnest to dote. Thy beard beginneth to whore, some for weary falleth down, within burg and town, and rise peradventure no more.
Truly there lieth no man in ground, Truly there lieth no man in ground, be he never so high of state, but he be strongly bound to occupy early or late. Prestest to pray and preach also, in penance and mass to show. Dukes, earls, barons, and knights thereto, to maintain the land in virtue, and to fight therefore if need be, and stand by every true cause he wis, and take no need of me near thee, but to maintain them their right is. But now truth is driven aback, and simony is set up as a sire. Their maid is master, there is no lack of friendship, neither in session nor shire. But would God reason reigned age? And would ye gather all virtues to heap? To the words that ye show me, every man is bound to take keep. Lo, son, thou mayst see, to occupation thou art bound.
Ah, sir, but let thee, never thee. Thou wouldst make me were, as is any hound, and that I hate. For aught that thou can tell me, shall none of you fell me, neither be strength compel me, early ne late.
Doctrine, sir, I pray you, tell us some of God's works that the common people may know, as do these worthy clerks.
I'm just going to pause there. Occupation, setting up. Could you just explain? Well, I'm glad you asked the question. Could you just explain for everybody in the room some of the reasons why we should turn turn idleness from his path? We've got the setup. The play is obviously a setup to explain this point. It's really interesting. We've had this elsewhere, and I can't remember where, but we've got that, thy father is the more to blame, thy friends. You should have been taught this. It's not necessarily your fault that you haven't been taught this. You can learn to be good. And that's really interesting. Idleness clearly finds this all very boring. Let me rest a little. Mine eye be as heavy as any lead. And he doesn't want to look at the book. Doesn't want to look at the book.
It's almost like he's saying, "I'm bored. Shut up."
Yeah.
Throwing his toys out the pram at this point, I think.
And when that doesn't work, he starts to get insulting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's very
Not
quick to
ambitious.
insult.
Yeah.
And much earlier on, there's that lovely line where when Doctrine says, "Come here, boy," and he says, "I'm not coming there when you're looking that angry. That's a whipping that I'm heading towards there. I'm not going anywhere near that."
I'm not coming near you, mate.
Yeah.
Is a clerk, so when Occupation is saying, teach him things like worthy clerks, it's like idleness is an unworthy clerk who's kind of let things fall by the wayside and isn't, because presumably being a clerk would be, holy orders as well.
I would assume so, yeah.
And his idleness is just fallen down on the job.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have these sort of clerk figures in with something like Dame Sirith, where Modi Clark who's up to no good and he's just sauntering around trying to bag married women, and idleness isn't doing that, but he's not doing his studies, is he? And considering how strict the learning would have been, I mean, you would be turning up early and you'd be leaving late, and you have to work hard to be idle, I would have thought.
Students have always been students since time immemorial.
Yeah. Nothing changes. Any additional thoughts? Are we happy with the current lineup? Because I think we can probably continue as we are for a little bit longer, if we're good. Okay, let's. Occupation has set up the teed everything up. Doctrine. Tell us some of God's works, please, in your own time.
Sume tritate, I will begin, that with his might wrought all thing, nuem modernes without sin, angelorum to him obeying, ad Dei judicia for to abide, mysteria complenda for of light, it fill many one that tide from the place that mankind shall restore full right.
What man of men I would wit shall restore that place again?
Their names being in legend right, and are kept all hallowed certain.
All Hallows? What be they? I pray you declare them openly.
angels, patriarchs, and prophets to say, martyrs and confessors truly, virgins and others of clean life, that died in pure chastity, that lived here without strife, in cleanness and humility. Vire religiosi, the patriarchs called, atque gloriosi, in their living, they told what would befall of diverse prophets and Christ's coming. John the Baptist said in his staven to all that veram penitentiam would chasten. Penitentiam agite, that ye not listen, quia appropinquabit, the kingdom of heaven. The postlists were in earth going, and Jesu Christ's laws read. Estote fortes, said Jesu our King, look, no tribulation make you feared.
I pray you, tell me in this place how apostles suffered tribulation.
Some ferro perempte heeded was, some flamnis exusti brant in town, fragilis viberate, some forboding. His sunt triumphatores, God's friends in hath. Here good deeds shall never be forgotten, for their blessed name in eternal merit.
Hear ye, sirs, all this breath. A draught of ale I had liever.
This were a worthy company that the apostle loved day and night.
Vos estix lux mundi, to all the world they give, to all the world they shall give light.
The martyrs had a glorious life, that for God's love would die so.
Sir, hic sunt sancti that never dread knife, but pro Dei amore they suffered woe. O quam gloriosa here death is, and their blood shedding did us much good. The blood shedding would bring us to bliss, if that we be mild of mood. These blissed confessors lived cleanly, and taught about the word of Christ, before they sit in the great glory, where all that joy and mirth is most. Virgins in their cleanness meekly in earth here lived, these be clept all hallows ere whiz, and we have before meaved. On all holy churches pardon relieveth men out of sin, of these saints that is come, that is treasure, the holy church within. At Christ's own blood I will begin, his apostles, his martyrs, and afterward his officers that had been out of sin, lead their life here full hard, and the cleanness of the maidens all make us good ways unto heaven. Or hallow and day their day men call, and worship men with mild Stephen.
Ah, sir, of men that liveth a day now, shall they in that number be?
Yea, sir, was ye see how? Fulgebunt justi, and thus say we, right wise men may not fail i whiz, to have heaven for their travail. Rightfulness so high a virtue is, that justitia manet may not fail.
And how do they that have do sin, and amend them here ere they die?
From heavenly bliss they may not win, to ask mercy they were ready.
What is mercy? That would I know. I pray you, do me to understand.
Mercy is the best seed sow, for above all works he shall stand. For as per lignum moribata mors certain, though a tree of death first arose, and per lignum quoque there again, by a tree our life was chose, and brought our bliss from death and strife. For even as Adam by a tree did fall, to turn our death to everlasting life, on a tree God died for us all. There was, O loem, promissionis shrewd, that from Christ's body ran. Take heed, thou man, and be not lewd, for all our grace there first began. God's body thereto was all to rent, and made full of holes that ever shall run, to the blood of mercy that shall never stint in the salocane of sinful men. For his passion till doomsday his body shall never leave raining, and of his blood of mercy every man get may, if they repent their evil living. There shall none be warned that blood of bliss every man thereof may get. This is the liquor of mercy that every day whiz in holy church that may it fet.
I thank Jesu my Saviour with all my heart and my speech, so free of that worthy liquor, as well to poor as to rich.
Nay, sir, ye fail there. That is no just servants, but brother and brother. God bought all like dear, and paid as much for one as for other. There is no poor, God saith before, but those that be in sin and out of virtue. They though have marks in store, then he shall be as rich as thou. The riches of heaven is none in gold, it is in virtue and clean life. As to the before is told, that should be used in man and wife. At doomsday God wot, who shall be rich, who shall be poor, and that for that day will be so hot, that by gold men will set no store.
Sir, what is come to my mind? Why clape ye that the great day?
For many skilled that I find, I will declare then if I may, then shall sit the greatest justice upon that ever sat in any place. All other justices before him shall stand, on all the lords that ever was. So many at once as we there shall see, never at once in one place come. For all that were and ever shall be, in heaven, earth, and hell cometh to doom. That day will be the greatest weeping that ever was, say, in any place before. Many thousands their hands shall wring, and curse the time that they were bore. Therefore the great day cleap high, for those that shall be damned in that rout, shall weep more water with hear ye that than is in all the world round about. They shall never after cease weeping, the water from their eyes shall run. Therefore think on this day of reckoning, and ever after hate thou sin, and in haste thy life amend.
Will I never work begin, but I think on the end.
I'm just going to pause there, but we will backtrack before we go forward in a moment. The way Doctrine speaks throughout that, I find really interesting, because Idleness obviously breaks in once to say, "Dear God, someone get me a beer." And I think it's because Doctrine is deliberately a bit boring and obscure at the beginning of the speech. At the very beginning, because he's doing a lot of Latin into English, and it, even if you do know the Latin, you can follow it. It's nowhere near as convincing as what comes later.
Latin,
And I wonder if that's a structural point, is that we're supposed to be drawn into it, and that's why Idleness doesn't say anything from that point onwards.
these people heard Latin. They didn't necessarily understand it, but they heard it every Sunday at church, as well as at burials, baptisms, etc. And I think there was a reaction they had to just the sound of Latin being spoken that's hard for us to comprehend now. It's why in Faustus all the magic is in Latin. It, even post-Reformation, it had a dramatic effect. And I think I agree with you. The beginning of that speech is loaded with Latin, but I think it sort of subconsciously cues people to sit still and listen.
Apart from Idleness.
It comes, it brings them back to the place where they are in church. And it's also a way to say, I'm an authority because I know this language, so you have to listen to what I say. Overall, I think Doctrine's arguments are very elegantly constructed. This wouldn't be out of place in something by the Pearl Poet or even in Piers Plowman.
I find it very convincing as it goes on, and it's more emotive as well as it goes, as it gets into it, and rather than sort of this starting point, it gets increasingly into something that is quite profound in places. I think it does a really good job. Sascha.
There's also, if you don't mind me bringing in a modern reference here, as I was listening to that, you remember in The Simpsons where Homer's in church and he's trying to listen to the races, and the next thing that happens during the sermon, he pops up and goes, "Woohoo! Yay, praise be!" That kind of thing. It kind of reminded me of that bit, in a way, Idleness is that Homer Simpson character that amplifies and that sense of resonance as well. Like you were saying about the listening aspect of Doctrine, Well, idleness is almost representing the common man in a way, who really and truly deep down's like, what? Really? Yeah, look, beer. Oh, beer. That kind of, just to kind of highlight the whole thing. It just reminded me of that little snippet in The Simpsons.
I find
Just to pick up on what Liza was saying about it being like the Pearl Poet or like Piers Plowman, that where doctrine talks about the, you know, through a tree our death first arose, by a tree our life was chose. That's pure Piers Plowman. That's definitely feels like that, and it's quite alliterative as well.
Well, it's the thing is also that occupation is there to prompt and ask questions and to get things wrong as well and be corrected. So you can be a good person, as it were, and also still get correction. And I think that's actually quite nicely structured. But it's the fact that it is that idleness drifts out of this. You know, this is in theory for idleness's sake. But we don't know where, and I don't want to say too much on that front until we go into what follows, because I think that will answer what possible questions I might be about to ask. But no, I think once doctrine gets into it, I think it works. It's actually very effective. By its nature, doctrine is long and will be a long speech, and there's no getting around that. That's always going to be what doctrine does. Well done, doctrine, by the way. Some of that was tricksy.
Yes.
Additional thoughts before we go into the home straight, and we really are into the home straight. It's not a long one today. Does anyone want to swap round? Anyone want to pick up the cudgels again?
Don't mind if anybody wants to.
I don't mind either.
I mean, Liza, do you want to go back to being occupation, or?
Well, I'm having great pleasure hearing you read it because you speak the language. I speak it okay, but you're an expert, and so I definitely want to keep hearing you read. You know.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I don't mind.
Sascha, would you like to continue?
Sure, I'll continue. Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So,
Whatever.
say again, Greg.
I'm quite happy, whatever.
Well, well, it's up to Ruth. If Ruth wants to take up doctrine, we'll take a step to the left.
Well, we could do it. Swap them around. It might be fun to swap them around.
I've now completely lost as to who's reading what.
Yeah, I've forgotten who's reading what.
So Sascha is idleness again. Ruth is
So I
either...
can be occupation or doctrine. I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Up to you.
If you go for doctrine, and
shall I step back in as occupation? Or?
Yeah, let's try it that way. Let's try it that way. Let's see how that goes.
I'll have to remember who I am. Right.
Yes.
Remember who thou art, O man.
Yes, your doctrine. Your doctrine. Okay. Let's go back a couple of lines. Occupation. You've just heard doctrine's wonderful oration there. Will I never work begin? Go from there, I think.
Will I never work begin, but I think on the end.
Oh, by my troth, normal will I, for I have no will to be a clerk. Of my book I am weary. I was not wont to know such work. This book is not worth a rush. 10 such are not worth a bean. Be my fay, I will him wish and make him fair and clean. Good, give me a little water, that I may wash my book. For though my master chide and chatter, and their occupation hereof smatter, I will no more hereon look.
What, son, what play is this?
By God, it is never the worse.
I will tell thy master, Ewis.
Therefore have thou God's curse.
Doctrine, sir, take heed how your clerk shent his book.
Ah, sir, the devil be thy speed, who bade thee hither look.
Ah, lewd losel, what shapes be in these? Thou takest thee to fantasies. Fast sit down, thou shalt not choose.
Ah, sire, here be many butterflies, both white and brown. For cock's blood take thee thine hood, and I will smite them down.
Thou dost well and fine. I will thee tame by St. Austin, be thou never so wild. Occupation, lay hand on him, have do, and myself will help thereto. Come forth, my fair child.
Come no near, I charge thee now. For an thou do, I make a vow. I will strike thee to the heart, would God my dagger were ground.
Set hand on him anon this stand, let him not start.
Come forth thou shalt, Margrave, thy teeth.
Out upon the strong thief, wilt thou me spill?
Have here 1, 2, and 3. Idleness, now think on me, and hold thy tongue still.
And I live, I will be a wreck. Some of your heads I will break, for ye have made me wrath.
How sayest thou? That let me see.
Nay, but God it is he, in record of all this company, he did beshrew you both.
Fie on thee, harlot, with thy glossing. Thou shalt have more by heaven, king, to teach thee what's true.
Mercy, master, I cry mercy. Forgive me this, and readly our law will I shew.
In good faith thou shalt have more, but thou leave thy idleness, and but thou study and labour also in all the works of cleanness. For God taught his disciples all, to thee and to other teach will I. Vigilate ergo, great and small. Nescitis qua hora that ye shall die, we know none hour of our dying. Therefore in prayers ever should we be. For with our paternoster we should worship heaven king and his blessed mother with an our way.
I say now mercy with heart and speech, forever to you will I obedient be. And I will do as ye me teach in all the works of honesty. Paternoster I will begin.
Lo, how little mastery it is to bring in a child in youth. Friends, take heed to this, and ever draw ye from sloth. And thus, had he had no teaching, he would have cursed his friends all. And now he may in time coming be a good man, and so he shall.
Art thou sorry for thy miss, the which to thee I will rehearse?
Ay, sir, that I am ywis. Therefore I cry God and you mercy.
The 10 commandments thou break evermore, thy 5 wits thou kept them ill.
Truly that I repent sore. I will amend with all my will.
The deeds of mercy dost thou not fulfill, to poor, sick, prisoners also.
I will amend it with good will, and I may have life thereto.
Now thou forsakest thine idleness, and hereafter wilt dread shame. Here I cast on thee a cloth of cleanness, and cleanness shall be thy name.
Worthy master, I thank thee, and you, Occupation, also, of this man that is so free, and to you will I ever draw to.
Now I'm glad with all my heart that ever I met with thee in this place. So fair art thou now convert, from folly and fantasy turned to grace, with so mild Stephen.
Master, I pray you for charity, that ye would tell me what power hath our Lady in heaven.
Above all the women that ever were, God chose Mary unto this. In her body him to bear, et paralegit eum Deus. Sicut lilium among thorns growing, sic amica mea inter filius. So is his mother most shining, passing all the women that ever was. Witness at her assumption, when the angel said, Que is ista, que descendit fro deserta down? Et anquam fumi virgula, et sicut aurora consurgens, never sun shining so bright, with all delights of sweetness, that they saw that glorious sight, but the ascension of Christ alone. When she to heaven was come, God said to his angel anon, Haec est regina virginum, que genuit regum in her body so clean, qui famulantur angeli every day. This same body that ye here seen, within the blessed sides I lay. God said to her, Amica, veni de Libano in flesh and fell, veni coronaberis in heaven most high, as queen of heaven and empress of hell. And lady of all the world she is, her power is of great estate. Whoso honour her with our ways, all his disease she will abate. So he be clean and out of sin, for him wilful to amend, in every work that he will begin. Our dear lady will be his friend. And but he stand in that degree, I would not give for his prayers a pear.
I thank my Lord in Trinity, that ever I met with you here.
Thank we him of might most, Father and Son in Trinity, abater of the fiend's boast. Wholly my heart I yield to thee.
He us brings to good end, that died for us on Good Friday. And Mary his mother be our friend, unto thy Son as ye best may.
He that is registered for the right heir, that doubtful doomsman that sitteth enthroned, keep you ever out of all despair, and grant you his blessing, every one. Amen.
Amen.
And the moral of the story is, if children don't do what you say, beat them and they will learn.
I think amen is probably meant to be said by everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it is. It seems to be turn up in quite a lot of plays, and it does seem to be a point of commonalty between everybody.
God, that Latin is horrible.
You did it very well.
I was in awe of how you handled it. Seriously.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah, Ruth, well done, because I couldn't have coped with all that lot.
No, you.
I wasn't sure what that word I would not give for his prayers a pear. I think maybe it's Perry. I don't know.
Yeah,
Possibly, or maybe the fruit.
yeah, it could be a pear.
It is fruit. It just sounds funny.
Yeah, it's not like it could be pear. It's weird, isn't it? You can't quite win with it, can you? It's got to rhyme with here. So yeah, pear is perhaps
It's got to mean something worthless, right?
So yeah, I think it probably is.
So wait, what do we think idleness does to the book?
I assume rips it up.
Well,
because it's talking about butterflies, so I'm thinking that's individual pages.
Yeah.
He talks about washing it and dunking it, which indeed he may do, but it does talk about the book being shent, and that suggests ripping. And I say the butterflies, I think that's pages, isn't it? It's very active, this last sequence. He gets a good thwacking, bit more beating. And then you get this wonderful, to the audience from Occupation, almost probably, well, I don't know if there's an additional beating happening at that point, but he's just going, idleness suddenly goes down. I'm doing my work. Look, I'm doing my work. Look, I am. And it's just to the audience. Look how little it took to get him to do some work.
Yeah, just that threat of putting him into submission or killing him, or, just that little threat of violence. That's all it takes with him. But like I say, it's like that pestilent child syndrome. If you don't have any boundaries or rules per se, then that child could be almost like the Homer J. Simpson that I was mentioning character, and just go completely out of control. You could be completely idle, you could do what the heck you like and get into chaos. But without that discipline, that's what it's really saying. If you don't have that kind of framework, you can't actually have a semblance of order. You can't go through your life literally blasé like idleness does.
The thing about Homer, like The Simpsons almost is a morality play because everyone is so archetypal. And the thing about Homer is he's incapable of changing. He always reverts to Homer, no matter what situation he's put into or what he has to do to get through that situation. And idleness does change. Presumably, if he'd been raised right, he wouldn't need to be beaten.
Yes, this is a
that's
desperate.
what I mean.
Yeah, this is a desperate rearguard action, isn't it? It's we've tried explaining to him. He's not been brought up properly, so he has to undergo a bit of a short, sharp shock. It's back to Tory party conferences of old.
But also, I mean, Ruth, you will know chapter and verse on this, but to a medieval morality sort of person, did they see corporal punishment as like a good and necessary sort of thing?
Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, schoolboys were often beaten to instill the lesson in them because of the belief that pain made doctrine go in better. So yeah, I think this would have been seen as something good.
And he gets, again, it's something we've seen elsewhere, he gets a new piece of clothing to demonstrate that he has been washed clean, as it were, and a new name, which are tropes that we find all over the other morality plays and interludes that we've looked at. It's an ever-present theme.
But it's interesting to contrast the huge, turn to repentance at the end of this with like will to like, which is later, 100 years later possibly, where you don't get that moment of repentance at all. You just get Nicole Newfangled going off with the devil, but no moment of repentance at all.
No.
You got the speeches of contrition, but of the four little speeches you got, only one urged repentance. The others were just like, well, take example by me, because I guess it's too late now.
But this is definitely about metamorphosis, isn't it? I'm going to turn into conversion.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's I'll just find the one note I've got on this. Though this is not a fully fledged play, just going to put it down what I've just picked up and just go, no, this is a play. This is a fully fledged play. It's a very simple play, but it's a play.
No, it's like with the Pixar films. You've got something at the start before the actual film.
Yeah, it's a short. It's a short.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possibly 40 minutes, maybe less. But it's a decent chunk of it's an entertainment. It's not that much shorter than what we were doing with Mankind last week. It's slightly shorter. It's complete. It's definitely not a fragment. It seems all to be here. So yeah, I'm really pleased by this, just simply for containing so much that we have later, and really seeing it all explicitly laid out. That this isn't some form that sort of that shifts and changes so much that in fact actually there's a huge amount of continuity over a great period of time until it sort of drops out much later in the day. And I'm really pleased we've done this. I mean, it's a really interesting thing. It's it's difficult to do the ending today. I think it is very difficult, without presenting this in context and doing something to set this up, because I don't know how you could present that ending, because it's tricky. I think it's dynamic and it's very well done, but it's fascinating.
It could be done as a series of short plays if you wanted to actually do it for real on stage. I think it can be certainly easily done by the way it's read.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't see it as a standalone play on its own. It could literally just be a strong opening to a double bill, and then you'd have to finish with something a little bit more, forthcoming in terms of the morality plays. But if you found the right one to pair it up with, I don't know.
It's the way I see it is, it's definitely in the running to do as part of, when we can do live shows again. The live shows we do, sort of script in hand, we record them like a radio show. I think with an introduction to set this up, or a themed evening with other bits and pieces, say in the first half, talking about the kind of plays that we're doing, and then in the second half you just present this, would work very well. I don't see a lot here that I would go, that's ridiculously long, I need to cut it down. I might put some trims in, but pretty much, it's a very presentable thing, and it only has 3 actors. I mean, it's cheapness incorporated. It's great.
Fabulous.
Iain, as this is your first time, how have you found this text?
Fascinating. I think it feels like it's the earliest equivalent I've ever heard of theatre and education. So the shows that go around to schools today saying you need to eat a balanced diet, and you've got a character that's a bunch of grapes, or a character or vegetables that all chat to each other about what makes the balanced diet. Here you've got the equivalent of that being religion, doctrine, occupation, work, and religion to face off against meat and beer. 2 terrible things. So I thought it was a fascinating read along. It feel that kind of vibe, especially towards the end, is cleanness. Then he bring us to good end and death for us on Friday. It's like he's saying that to the audience, sort of like in a child. He died for us on Good Friday. Sort of that kind of meter then kicks in of a very young person being told what to do. So yeah, it was great, and everybody read really well. Really exciting. It's really cool.
Right. Greg, any thoughts as we're winding down? We're running down relatively early tonight, but I kind of don't see any point of pushing on if this we've found most of our thoughts. Greg.
No, nothing in particular tonight.
Sascha, any final thoughts from you?
No, except that it's very good fun. The characters are well rounded, and I look forward to seeing if it goes any further.
I really would like to test this with an audience. I think it's got legs. Liza.
Well, I would, as with so much medieval text, I would be so curious to know who wrote it and what else they wrote. Because, for the kind of play that it is really nicely written. And when you think, again, I know we don't have a precise date on this, but when you think it was written as the country was either in the middle of or recovering from the trauma of the Wars of the Roses, where they so there's much less of these kids today vibe that there is with the later plays, and there's the world is pretty terrible. How do we not all become terrible people? How do we do the right thing?
I mean, it's interesting when you compare it with Lucidus and Dubius, which is in the same manuscript. There's no guarantees it's by the same person or anything, which is a very different proposition, which is very much a learned schoolmaster and their ex-pupil who sort of come back and sort of spars with him on points of doctrine. And it's very much like a Q&A. Here is a question, here's my learned answer. But then it gets more dynamic as it goes. It's actually really quite interesting how the ex-student sort of starts pushing back on points of doctrine. It becomes a genuine debate rather than just a Q&A. Though some of the Q&A sections are just frankly bizarre in places. They're fascinating. It's where they've got the answer or the doctrine, the point of they want to get across, but they haven't got a very good question to set it up. And so there's a few moments where it's sort of, that's not a question that anyone would ever ask. But the structure of the piece demands it. And it'd be interesting actually, now that we've done both, is actually to sit down and properly compare the two and see if they are from the same branch of thought, because I think you're right. It feels like it's a theatre and education piece, isn't it? It's that...
I'd love to know who commissioned it, because I'm sure it will have had a patron who said, I'd really like to have a performance of this, and I'm going to write this and put it together. And I'd love to know where it was performed, if it was done for a country house or in the court, or I just don't know. It's in a school. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like when we get to Tudor interludes where we've got a sense of what the setup and the potential people, we just don't know what's going on. We know there are people sponsoring, this kind of dramatic effort. We know that, the various pre-Tudor kings are doing this kind of activity. We just don't have any detail, and we don't know where to put anything.
If you had travelling players, they could go around and perform this, say, in a village square or in front of the church, or there are lots of different kind of outdoor possibilities for it.
Yeah, it's just it is frustrating. We just don't have the data on these things. And it sort of goes in that box with the other sort of outliers of medieval drama, which are not mystery plays or not clear morality plays that seem to fit within something else. And this text is one of those outliers that I'm really, really glad we've looked at. Any final thoughts? I think from anyone. Right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We're going to go into housekeeping in just a moment, but I'd just like to thank all my readers for this session, and say this will be out online. If you'd like to have a look at Lucidus and Dubius, we did a read through of that, and that's on the podcast, so you can listen to that at your leisure if you so wish. Otherwise, an awful lot of other interludes that do very similar things to this are available. I'm not even going to attempt to list them now. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.